fuel. Take a ride with Eddie Hill. Diamond B Sports in-car camera shows you Eddie Hill in action in his burnout. Here comes Frank Hawley. Hawley, returning to the driver's seat after a 2.5-year layoff, is driving Larry Minor's race car. He qualified 7th with a 5:16 and beat Bobby Baldwin in the first round. Eddie Hill, the number 11 qualifier, at a 5:28, drew Dick LaHaye in the other Miller High Life car in the first round. LaHaye had qualified 3rd at a 5:10. The defending Winston champion was in the near lane. Eddie Hill was in the far lane. A giant wheel stand for Dick LaHaye, and what a break for a tire-smoking Eddie Hill. As the Hill crew celebrated, Steve had an opportunity to talk to a disappointed Dick LaHaye.
Well, this particular wheel stand, I think, caught Dick LaHaye completely by surprise. And, Dick, I don't know if you saw Eddie Hill smoking the tires, but it was yours to be had.
Well, I knew, the car ran very well last night, Steve, and run the quickest we'd ever run in our life. And we knew it was going to run better today, but we wasn't expecting a wheel stand at all.
What's the sensation from the cockpit when they get up that high?
Well, I started walking it up, and I thought, oh, Lord, let it come back down, and I tried to pedal it, and it looked like it was going to come down. When I stepped back into it, it just walked up in the air, and I had to back the throttle off, and it just came down too hard. I tried to feather it, and it didn't happen.
A tough break for Dick LaHaye. From our in-car camera point of view, you see the safety harnesses strapping Eddie Hill into the cockpit of the Super Shops dragster. He's in the far lane. In the near lane is Frank Hawley. Hawley at the wheel of the Miller High Life Special, following the directions of his crew into the spot on the racetrack that should provide the best traction. Both drivers concentrating on the start, getting themselves prepared. Let's watch Eddie Hill drive. There's the gear shift with the right hand. Then the high-speed lean out with the left. And a supercharger explosion in the lights. Eddie Hill wins the race. 5.26 seconds his speed, 248 miles an hour, but he's got some mechanical problems. As we watch again, you can see the race from the start. Frank Hawley with the advantage at the starting line. But then the horsepower of Eddie Hill's car begins to come into play. Hawley was the first with problems, losing a supercharger drive belt. Then Eddie Hill exploded a supercharger right at the finish line. Steve?
Well, Dave, problems in the supercharger department for both drivers. The loser, Frank Hawley, his belt is gone, and Eddie Hill's, yours may be a little more serious than that.
Yeah, it kicked the blower off big time. Yeah, bad problem. I don't know why. We sure didn't have it set anywhere close to kill, we didn't think.
Is Mother Nature throwing us a curve here? All of a sudden, the weather's getting much hotter.
I don't know. That's sure not typical of us, but I don't know.
Back at the starting line, racing continues in round number 2 of Top Fuel Eliminator. Here is former Winston champion Gary Beck at the wheel of the McGee Special, while this is the new national record holder, Darrell Gwynn. That record-shattering 5:05 gave Gwynn the number 1 spot. He beat Gary Ormsby in the first round. Meantime, Gary Beck defeated Earl Whiting. Earlier, Steve took a look at the somewhat different approach of the McGee team.
This weekend, Seattle fans welcome home a native son, two-time Winston Top Fuel champion Gary Beck, at the wheel of a very unique dragster powered by this, the McGee quad-cam engine, designed in Australia and built in America. This is a true 4-valve per cylinder engine with dual overhead cams on both sides. It doesn't take much of a valve spring to make this engine work. You lose the push rod, you lose the rocker arm, and all the inherent valve train problems you have with a conventional Hemi nitro motor. Now, it looks complicated. They haven't had this engine apart in over 13 runs, but they say it was designed to be worked on, and that the bottom end, the crank, is very strong. That means fewer broken rods and less oil on the racetrack. Now, Gary Beck, for the first time, has won with this engine right here today. And what does the drag racing fraternity think of all of this? Well, Kenny Bernstein has ordered 3 of them to start developing for his funny car. Joe Amato has bought a couple. And Bill Schultz, famed Nitro crew chief, he only ordered 1. He says, this is so strong, I think it's all I'll ever need.
Problems on Gary Beck's car. You see the hands of a crewman trying to manually get the car out of reverse after the burnout. The car stuck in reverse. What a tough break for Beck. The engine running great, but problems in the drivetrain are causing severe difficulties for Beck. Jerry Gwynn, the crew chief for his son Darrell, goes over, shakes his hand in that traditional handshake, and Gwynn begins rolling to the starting line. Buster Couch, the official starter. There's the signal. It is going to be a bye run for Gwynn. No competition. They shut Gary Beck off. and Darrell Gwynn gets a big break in round number 2. The national record holder blasts off the starting line. Across the finish line, Gwynn runs 5.09 seconds. His speed 273 miles an hour, and that advances him into the semifinals, where he will race Eddie Hills, Gwynn having the choice of lanes by virtue of the quicker elapsed time. The other pair finds Frank Bradley against Gene Snow. Snow has the lane choice in that race. We'll be coming right back to the Performance Corner, Seafair Nationals. Performance Corner, Seafair Nationals. That'll be against Gene Snow right now on the starting line. It is round number 2 competition in Funny Car Eliminator. This is Scott Coletta driving the Oldsmobile bodied creation against the Ford Thunderbird car of Brad Tuttle. Tuttle out of Hesperia, California, enjoying his best day on a drag strip in many a year. In the first round race, he defeated the top speed record-holding car of Mike Dunn. Tuttle qualified at this Seafair Nationals in the number 10 spot with a 5.49 seconds. Meantime, Scott Coletta qualified 6th with a 5.39 second elapsed time and beat Johnny West in the first round. The body comes up on Coletta's car is Dead Connie. Working on the fuel distribution system, it doesn't appear to be any problem. Connie looking first at Scott, then back at the starting line. And now apparently gets the word that it's time to race. He throws a couple of valves, the body comes down, and Scott Coletta will come to the starting line against the car owned by Jerry Hammond and driven by Brad Tuttle. Tuttle in the far lane of the racetrack. Coletta with the choice of lanes in the near lane. While the racetrack appears to be equal, we find the lower qualified cars, like the Coletta Flying Service Special, taking the near lane of the racetrack. And a giant wheel stand and tire smoking start for Scott Coletta. Brad Tuttle advances into the semifinals. His time 5.60. His speed 259 miles an hour, but he's in the semis, and Scott Coletta out of competition. Here's the bright red car bearing the big number 1, the Budweiser King, Kenny Bernstein. His opponent in this second round of competition is John Force. Every car racing today will do a burnout. It is designed to get the tires clean, but most importantly, hot. Those 17-inch wide Goodyear slicks operate best when they are warm, getting the traction these racers need. Let's go to Steve with Brad Tuttle.
Well, sometimes you wish that if you got the brakes that they were spread out over the course of the season, but Brad Tuttle seems to be getting all of his today. A 560, Coletta had big problems.
Well, that's good. Well, not good, but I'm glad we're finally getting a break. You know, we've been struggling out real hard, and I'm just happy we had a break here today.
You know, and you're true. You're not touring pros. You're not at every race like the McCulloughs and the Bernsteins. It's tough for you.
Oh, yeah, it's tough, especially when you're not out on the trail with all these guys, you know, and hitting it every weekend, you know, learning all the tricks, you know. And well, we're getting there. I'd like to thank Jerry Hammond for having me out here.
You betcha. Let's hope you find a trick yourself for the semis.
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay.
Thanks, Steve.
Brad Tuttle, nice young guy.
Indeed he is, Steve. On the starting line, John Force getting set to do battle with Kenny Bernstein. Force now will be testing the starting line in a dry burnout to find out exactly how much traction is available. Over the last couple of years, this has developed into quite a rivalry, the confrontation between Kenny Bernstein and John Force. Earlier, Steve had a chance to talk to both drivers about it.
Kenny, when you have time to watch tapes of the drag racing television shows and you see John Force always saying, I got to beat that red car, somebody's got to beat that bad Bernstein, he's possessed by that, or seems to be. What do you think about all of that?
Well, John may be possessed about anything. He's pretty much a maniac most of the time, but he's a great guy, and it's a wonderful interview, obviously, but he is possessed because he wants to win. He's no different than any of us out here, but I'm not so sure that the red car is his problem today, although we're going to try to give it our best shot.
That kind of rhetoric never gets under your skin a little bit?
No, not really, you know, because I know John, he's just raving along no matter what. It doesn't matter who he's talking about or what about or anywhere. It's just continuous, always going.
Steve, it's really hard to relate to a red car, and a lot of people ask me why I never say Kenny, but if you wake up in the middle of the night with a nightmare and you yell Kenny, what would my wife think?
A perfect example of what Kenny Bernstein's talking about. But when he's at the wheel of that Castrol GTX Special, He is all business. That's John Force in the far lane. Kenny Bernstein in the near lane. Creeping into the staging beams, getting set for the start. And John Force has a slight advantage. But Bernstein drives right past him. 5.32 seconds. 270 miles an hour. Awesome performance propelled Kenny Bernstein to the semifinals.